Hello and welcome to Japan Expert Insights and our Business Insights Room. Every Thursday, Team Sullivan and I, Maya Matsuoka, lead a discussion looking for insights, developments, and new opportunities for the business in Japan. In this podcast, we welcome comments, questions, and opinions. So if you haven't done so yet, join us next time. In the meantime, you can find us at japanexpertinsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region.
Good morning to everybody who joined us now. It's Thursday morning in Japan, May the 12th, and we're once again here with Mac Salman. We have had a couple of rooms before with Mac, and he is the founder of Maction Planet, the founder of Kampai Planet, one of our favorite business persons here in Japan. And he is also a very charismatic leader, if I can say so. Just this morning, I talked with Yuka, who should be here. Yes, Yuka, and shared my love for the work which Mac has been doing here in Japan, for Japan, and about Japan. So today again, we are going to talk with you, Mac, about, your business, of course, about opening the borders and what is next. So one thing which once again, I'm going to say here and share it with everyone is that I love what you do and how you do it and how you have found a way to position yourself and your work so well here in Japan, and then let's say in your effort of going forward. And it hasn't been easy at all. You have done this, of course, before. You did it before the pandemic, but during the pandemic was actually the hardest part. And I believe that during the pandemic, when you found it, Kampai Planet, you pitched and you did what very few people have been able to do. Be successful and go forward in a time of adversity. So, however, we're going to talk about this, I believe, but could you please tell us a little bit what you have been up to recently? Because we all know that you're a very busy person. I saw some of your posts on LinkedIn, and so it looks like you attended a couple of shows, traveled in Japan. So please tell us about that.
Sure. Thank you so much, as always, Maya, for a very humbling introduction. So I guess since we last spoke, a lot has shifted in the world of kind of my travel business and the travel part of what I'm doing, which is called Maction Planet, a name that I came up with before I knew what SEO stood for. So with some hindsight, I'm always thinking, even for the last 5 years, I've always thought, it's a travel business based in Tokyo and Japan, but it doesn't contain the words Tokyo or Japan in it. And in fact, any real clue that this has anything to do with travel. But luckily, I've been successful, at least about how I measure things. So hopefully that's some inspiration to people. Don't sweat it. You can still have a successful business, even if you have a kind of unique or niche name. So anyway, on the travel side of things, of course, any of us, including yourself, Maya, who are involved in travel, were kind of moved, right, by the announcement that Kishida made in London that Japan would be moving to some kind of G7 comparable border restrictions or lack of them, right? And, I think that was very, very key. So a lot of us who have been involved in travel constantly receiving queries from people, when are the borders going to reopen? When are the borders going to reopen? The headlines didn't do us any favors for this one, right? Because, it doesn't take a long Google search to see people, the headlines in The Guardian and The Independent, Japan will reopen its borders in June. But that is not quite as positive as the headlines make out, right? It's becoming clear that at least the initial rollout is going to be very clearly triple vaccinated travelers who are on package tours with defined itineraries. Now, for people who come to me directly, that doesn't, so I'm an independent tour guide. I'm not an agency. So for people who come to me directly, that's going to be difficult to accommodate them under that. However, I'm very lucky that I also have some relationships with some larger businesses who indeed do offer, package tours with defined itineraries. And typically what I would do is I would be guiding, 1 or 2 days of that program. So I'm very much hoping that this leads to, business returning from at least, say, mid-June. So that's been one aspect of what I've been doing. And then also, since we last spoke, I've done some more traveling around Japan. I spent some time in the Boso Hanto, the Boso Peninsula, which is that part of Chiba, the majority of Chiba Prefecture, that juts out, that hangs down, that you can get across to from Tokyo via the Aqua Line. And that was absolutely delightful. A lot of exploring, really. When I say deep, I mean literally going to the center of Boso Hanto. And Chiba is kind of one of those prefectures. I mean, they're all big prefectures, but if you live in the center of Boso Hanto, it takes you 2 hours to drive to Narita Airport. So, these are like big places geographically. Very, very beautiful, very, very, very undervisited, and really inspired me to try to help open up Chiba to tourism. I'll certainly be trying to take my guests, especially people who have coming on, their second trips, their third trips, their fourth trips to Japan. I'll definitely be trying to take them to these kind of much more off the beaten track places. And I also spent 5 days doing some travel consulting work up in Akita and Aomori, which is an absolutely fantastic part of Japan. I visited Hachinohe, I visited Aomori City, I visited the Tsuruta area, which is famous for having the longest wooden triple arch bridge in Japan, which seems like a very niche record to hold, but the Tsuru no Maibashi is absolutely beautiful. I visited Goshogawara, which is, there are basically 3 famous Nebuta or Neputa festivals in Aomori Prefecture. In Aomori, in Hirosaki, and in Goshogawara. Goshogawara is famous for these tachi Nebuta, which are like super tall, like 7 stories high. And I visited the museum there, and then continued round on a train which is called the Resort Shirakami. And the Resort Shirakami is, I've been very lucky to take some of the world's great train journeys, and I really think that train line coming all the way down that northwest coast of Japan, the Gono line, looking out across the Sea of Japan, it's absolutely spectacular. Beautiful train, beautiful scenery, and definitely a journey that people need to try and take. Certainly if you live here, it's very easy now to go up to Tohoku. JR. I wish Japan Rail ran the government here, because Japan Rail's accommodations for foreigners are really very nice, and it would be nice to see them translated into the Getai, right? So we've all heard of the Japan Rail Pass, which is available to non-resident foreign passport holders, which is one of the best travel deals on earth. $250 for a week of unlimited travel on basically any train, any JR train, certainly in Japan. Now, a couple of years ago, JR started to run experiments. We're making some of these passes, not the full JR pass, but some of their more niche, more parochial passes available to foreign residents of Japan. So currently, you can buy a 5-day pass for 20,000 yen that will provide unlimited travel in, so what they've done is they've taken kind of the areas north of Tokyo, and they've kind of split it into 2. So there's more Tohoku focused pass, which is 5 days for 20,000 yen. And then there's a pass that focuses on Nagano and Niigata, which is 20,000 yen. And I think these are absolutely fantastic. Even if, I think the one-way Shinkansen to Aomori is itself 18,000 yen. So literally just heading up to Aomori City and back again, and you're saving money. So over the last year, I've done a lot of, don't say a lot, but anyway, I've done some travel consulting work, which has basically revolved around that pass and trying to help tourists maximize value out of that pass. So that's been, Maya, that's been what's happening on the travel side of my life.
Thank you for telling us. Yes, while I was listening to you, I just remembered the times when I went to Boso Hanto in Chiba, and also to Hachinohe. And I believe that especially Hachinohe, Aomori, and also Niigata, of course, and the other parts, anyway, Aomori, sorry. So there have been quite a few changes there during the years I haven't traveled there, because I went there about, I think it was 10 years ago or so. And it sounds really very nice to hear about them again. And just what you told us now is such a motivator, for me and my family to get back there again. But also other parts of Japan, as you said, and as you said, going to the Boso Peninsula is such a great experience because it's so close to Tokyo.
Right.
Many people don't realize that there is a lot to see there, but it is full of history, it is full of culture, it is full of places which will help you feel good and refresh, recharge, and indeed just enjoy being there. So thank you for giving us this brief overview. I have a question to you.
Sure.
So, how are you? Because you have a blog post about Aomori, I think, and Akita.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
so what else is coming up in terms of your, let's say, posts on social media? Are you going to post any videos of those places which you visited recently? And if so, where are you going to post them?
So the short answer is there's not going to be any videos out of those trips. There will be continued content on the blog. So machinplanet.com has a fairly active blog. At a minimum, I post one post a week on every Tuesday, which is called This Week in Tokyo, but Tokyo gets substituted for whatever part of Japan I happen to be in and want to showcase that week. And so that's where you'll find the majority of content from the Aomori and Akita trips. Video, and we've talked about video before in these clubhouses, but one of my problems now is that as kind of the standard of the video that I make has got higher, and I know this is true because I watched a video that I made at the start of 2020 through like a face palm, like I was watching it with my fingers over my eyes thinking, oh my God, why didn't I cut out all of these ums and ahs here, so the quality of video that I want to make is higher. That actually puts a lot of pressure in terms of the production. So, that part of the Akita and Aomori trip was predominantly work. And so I didn't have the time that is needed, to film. There were other people with me on the trip, and we had to have meetings and such and such. So that's the thing. I would love to be making more travel related Japan content, but the pressure I put myself under in terms of the quality of what I would want that video to look like now means that it has to be a sort of a deliberate decision. It has to be something that I've really thought about, and I've scripted in advance, and I've decided where I'm going to need to take my shots, etc. And then you also have to have a certain energy, when you're presenting on camera, right? It means that for what I want to make, I need to be focused on it. However, I have been making more video content on my drinks platform, which is Kanpai Planet, which I know some of you are familiar with. So since we last spoke, I've released 2 videos. One of them was a vlog of the Tokyo Whiskey Festival. So at the end of March, after a 2.5-year absence, we saw the return of real world, non-online, offline, a term I quite like, because when you say offline, the reference point becomes online, which sort of makes me laugh. But yeah, anyway, real world whiskey festival for 2 days in Takadanobaba in Tokyo, called Whiskey Festival in Tokyo 2022. And I attended 2 of the 4 sessions, and I filmed extensively then. So I went to film, I had the energy to film, and then I managed to string all of that footage together to make a 30-minute, hopefully fun documentary about what happened there. And then I've also released a video reviewing the Yamazaki Distillers Reserve. In Japanese, it's known as the Yamazaki Joryusho Kinsei, and that is the no age statement expression, which is the youngest bottle in the Yamazaki core range of whiskies released by Suntory out of the single malts from the Yamazaki distillery. They also have a 12-year, an 18-year, a 25-year, and also a 55-year that they've released over the last couple of years, which will set you back several $100,000 if you were even able to find one for sale. And anyway, luckily at the other end of that, you can buy a bottle of Yamazaki Distillers Reserve for 4,950 yen in Japan. And I reviewed that. But something I did differently from other videos is that video is currently only available to people who have supported me on, basically, there's a platform called Buy Me a Coffee, which I'm using. It's very similar to the more famous version of this kind of platform is Patreon. And there's another one called Coffee as well, which is ko-fi.com. I decided to start using Buy Me a Coffee primarily because my channel is focused on drinks. So if you go in there and actually do some financial support, I've changed it from coffee to drink. So you can, it will come up, whoever, Watanabe-san has bought Mac 5 drinks, which makes me giggle and I quite like. And given that all the proceeds are reinvested back into making content, then it may well indeed buy me some drinks, buy me some bottles to review going forward. So anyway, a lot of YouTubers, a word that we know I hate, but we'll go with for now. A lot of YouTubers, for people who support them through these platforms, give early access to their videos. But given that my content, I create timeless content on the whole that isn't specifically, ultra time sensitive. I mean, I very much get excited that some of my supporters and some of the Kanpai Planet community really do get very excited when a video is released, and go and watch. It makes me very happy when I see 50 views in the first 30 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, these people have clearly saw the notification and then just went straight in and watched it. And I'm very humbled by that. But on the whole, you don't need to watch my review of the Yamazaki Distillers Reserve on the day it comes out. You can watch it a week later or a month later or a year later, and nothing will have changed. So early access for me didn't seem like enough of a benefit for my supporters. I want people who have, committed, be it $5, $50, or in some cases $250, out of the goodness of their hearts to supporting Kanpai Planet. I want them to have a tangible benefit. So what I did is I released an extended version of the video, right? So these guys have access to a 12.5-minute review of Yamazaki Distillers Reserve. And then at some point in the next week, I'm going to release a shortened version of that video, an edited video for public consumption. So, that's something that I'm going to start doing more and more going forward, which I'll stop there and see if that's something if you're interested in exploring more.
Yes, I love your holistic approach to branding. I mean, the point which you made about how you chose the platform, which people who support you can use to, help you financially a little bit. But it's really fascinating to listen to you because once again, especially people who work in marketing, they can learn so much from you. And I love what you do about those guys, those people who support you. Like you give them the tangible benefit, as you say, and of course, it gives you. It requires more time. It requires more effort on your side, but it is totally worth it, I believe. And it's amazing to listen to you. Just I don't know. I cannot stop saying this, and obviously, I need to enrich my vocabulary, So, but however, Yuka, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to jump in. Tim, you too. Of course, another thing is that this conversation is open to everybody. So if you have comments or, of course, questions or observations, or you just want to come up on stage and tell Mac how great his videos are, you can do this now. This is your chance, of course. Just raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage.
I'd love to hear from Yuka-san.
Well, thank you. So I have a question on Mac. The traveling side of your business. I've heard that over the Golden Week, tourism doubled the last year's number, which was a great number. But I presume your main target customers are from overseas, and you were saying that though it seems like it's very difficult to sort of ascertain like a citizenship to Japan. And I was just wondering, that's insane because last week, Elon Musk tweeted if Japanese population decrease at the current rate, Japan will disappear. I forgot in how many years, maybe 40 years. So that was very alarming, right? And then so over the weekend, over the Golden Week, have you noticed any increase in the visitors from overseas?
What has happened, recently is that there's been the relaxation of business visa requirements, right? And I can't think of a better word to use than abuse. And I actually don't mean that in a derogatory term, but some possibly very clever people have, and some very clever travel companies in Japan have figured out that this business visa can actually be abused. Okay, so although it's, as always with Japan, it's a lot of tedious back and forth. Basically, they are willing to grant a visa if you had some kind of LLC in the US, and you basically just submitted a form saying that I have some meetings in Japan, and somebody on the other side of that here in Japan is able to corroborate something along those lines, then you can come in. So I did actually notice that there are in this country right now some very motivated foreign tourists. Very, very small number though, but they are here. So that maybe hopefully answers that part of your question.
Motivated in what way? Like to
Motivated to
stay?
get here as soon as possible. Sorry, Yuka. No, just saying motivated to get here as soon as possible before the doors open up further and then the crowds, start coming in. So they've identified that, this relaxation of the business visa requirement that happened, 2 months ago now, was really could be used as a backdoor into the country for tourists as well. I've even seen some posts on LinkedIn from some travel agencies basically saying, if you really want to come to Japan, then please reach out to us right now, before the doors open. So there is a small, but like I said, motivated minority of foreign travelers who are in the country at the moment. In terms of Elon Musk's comment, so I'm going to talk about this with my actuarial hat. So I'm a qualified actuary. The first 16 years of my working career were spent working within insurance or working within finance companies, analyzing insurance companies. And I'm a qualified UK actuary. So the demographic decline of Japan has been known for a long time because rather like turning a big ship in the ocean, it's not like spinning a car around. These things take years. So, birth rates, you don't turn them around immediately, and it takes 20 years for human beings to become 20 years old. It's rather like whiskey. You can't legally call whiskey unless it's been aged for 3 years. So, if you want to boost your working population in the future, then a lot of stuff needs to happen right now, and then you need to wait another 2 decades or so. So anyway, it's for a long time, Japan's the replacement rate for the population. So the number of children that each family needs to have in order to keep the population at its current level of roughly 125 million people is about 2.1 children. Okay. And the current fertility rate in Japan, the number of children on average that families having, is around 1.2 children. Okay. So very obviously, actuaries and anybody who's looked at demographic charts for the last 20 years has known that unless this very simple trend reverses, then the population of Japan will decline. Now, Elon Musk has done what a lot of people in finance do, which is take one data point and then draw a straight line outwards from that. It's like looking at a stock market chart. The price of Bitcoin went up today, and went up tomorrow. So I'm just going to put a line through those 2 points and it's going to the moon, to use actually another of Elon's phrases, right? So is the Japanese race going to go extinct, over a whatever 200-year view? Well, yes, if these trends continue, then at some point there will be the one last Japanese person left standing, right? But and that, by the way, when I say Japanese, we're very specifically here talking about the Japanese race as defined by the majority of people who live here at the moment, right? But I don't think that's a very that's a very simplistic way of looking at things, right? To our knowledge, no society of human beings in the history of humanity has become extinct just through declining birth rate. And the second point to make is that it's a trend that's actually affecting a lot of countries. China, very visibly, and also a vast number, 6 or 7, I think, major European nations also have the same problem, albeit at the ratio of those two numbers that I gave is slightly different. But they're also going to suffer declining birth rates as well. So, yes, anyway, Yuka, that's kind of the backdrop to understanding these comments. So if you're in government and you're looking at these things, then obviously, one solution is immigration, right? And we know Japan's current attitude towards widespread immigration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So first, at least I've heard a very good news from your comment you just made. So you have a high skill. I mean, you are a man of many talents. You are an actuary, and I believe that's a great skill to have. So anyway, that's great. But anyway, so going back to the tourism from overseas. So now I've heard that because my friend just was at the Narita airport last week, and then he noticed that so many like a students from Asian countries, like just to study. And it seems like the doors are very much open for those segments of visitors. Is that a good sign? Okay, good meaning it will lead to the more larger number of visitors.
So over the last 2 years, it's been extremely difficult at best, if not impossible, for foreign students to come and study in Japan. And again, this is a situation that they finally addressed a few months ago. So we've got basically, obviously, over the last 2 years, some of those students have decided not to pursue their Japan dream. Right, like 2 years out of everybody's life is a reasonably high percentage. They've decided to move on, to go and study in Korea, for example. That's quite a worry for me as somebody who lives in Japan and somebody who loves this country. That a lot of these potentially super smart, motivated people have decided to basically give up on this country and then go and take their futures and their destinies elsewhere. But some have stayed with it. And so we've now got a situation where you've got these new students coming in. Obviously, it's also the start of the academic year at the moment, right? You mentioned your friend was there last month, literally in April, right? Where you're going to get a lot of people coming in. And that's going to be a combination of new people who would have naturally started in 2022, and also part of that backlog of people who have held on to their Japan dream and really wanted to come and study here in 2020 and 2021. So I think it's super positive. I mean, we just need to look at. Listen, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm a big believer in global citizenship, and nothing would make me happier than the barriers that we unnecessarily put up to the free flow of human capital and financial capital traveling around the world. We're one race, we're one people, and we should be bringing in the smartest people that we can into this into our institutions in Tokyo and Kyoto and beyond, for the benefit of this great nation, right? So it makes me really happy to finally see all these students coming back into Japan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, and Yuka, I gather that you asked the first question was about tourism in general in Japan or inbound travel into Japan. So I didn't get that. So if it is about tourism in general, so we can say that yes, the domestic travel here it just boomed during the past couple of months because people, they were there were restrictions. Of course, there were no strict lockdowns here in Japan. Everybody could still go out and move around, but still people refrained from traveling. And then once the state of emergency, the last one, was over, everybody felt that sense of liberation. It wasn't absolute, of course. People still observe all the let's say measures, preventive measures, wearing masks, sanitizing, keeping the social distance between them, and so on and so on. But there has been a boom here in domestic travel, and I would say that yes, foreign residents here in Japan, they travel a lot too. I am one of them, actually. I have been quite a few places since the state of emergency. So yeah, and we hopefully, once they open the borders to more to foreign visitors, there will be people who come here not just for business or who use their business visas to travel in the country, but also people who will come here to travel within the country. And one of the observations which Tim made in one of our previous rooms, I believe, was that for some time we're not going to see the most numerous, or the nation that was the most numerous, market here in Japan. So because obviously the Chinese visitors are not going to return for a while, but we can say that people from other Asian nations are probably coming back soon, as long as the restrictions allow them to enter the country as tourists. So this is to add to Max.
Okay. Hey,
Yes.
Maya. So, okay, I'm just trying to clarify. So, okay, tourism include the domestic travel. When you use the term inbound,
Yes.
that's the visitors from overseas. Is that a distinction?
Yes, there is a
Oh, okay.
distinction. Yes. So we generally in this industry we refer to travel in general, but within that general term, there are three fields, if I can say so. So one of them is what we call domestic travel, and it is the travel by people who reside here or live here in the country. And then we've got the inbound travel, which is usually people who reside out of Japan but come here, for the purposes of travel.
And then outbound. Okay.
And then outbound, yes.
Okay. Right. I see their question on chat.
I'm just taking a look. So this is a question from Jorge here. Had travel plans to Japan cancelled 3 years in a row, and they want to go, but they feel not welcomed. Jorge, do you want to speak for a little bit before we address this great question? If not, then absolutely no problem. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
okay, no
Max,
problem. Okay, thank
go
you.
go
I just
on.
saw that. No problem at all. I think that the question is it's a great question, and it's it's very clear. Yeah, I absolutely can empathize with people who've um, had to cancel trips multiple times, and have been following some of the dialogue around the way that Japan has handled its border requirements, and also some of the more negative messaging around who foreigners carrying COVID, don't eat with foreigners in Gunma Prefecture or Ibaraki or whatever, wherever it was, So I can understand that if you're sitting in the position of, you know, people like Jorge and Roxanne who really want to come here, but have a choice. I think sometimes that's forgotten by the few people who are in charge of kind of inbound tourism here. And I say few people, by the way. Sorry, just to touch on Yuka's point, and also Maya gave an excellent summary. So you have these three aspects of travel: kind of domestic travel, and then inbound and outbound. So people, Japanese people, Japanese residents going to Hawaii, and then people from outside Japan coming here. And I'm very heavily focused, of course, on inbound travel. But inbound travel is the least represented at a government level by some margin, because for so long, the people who control travel in this country, which is basically JTB and the other kind of 4 or 5 major travel agencies who absolutely dominate the market. Think the 80/20 of the 80/20. They really just cared predominantly about the domestic movement, somebody from Aomori going to Kyoto, and then people going to Hawaii. And again, if I was, you know, Jorge and Roxanne, I'd be seeing NHK very proudly saying that 100,000 Japanese have gone to Hawaii for Golden Week, right? And then be thinking, capital W, capital T, small a, capital F, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, right? Why can't anybody from Hawaii get into Japan and go on holiday there? At a minimum, from the outside world, that probably smacks of an unbridled level of hypocrisy that is, if you're there and you've had your holiday cancelled a few times and you really wanted to come here, it's probably a little bit disgusting, right? It's like somebody telling, it's like the kings of France, dining in massive hedonism while the people starve in the streets, right? Would be a way of interpreting it if you were very depressed about the situation. So I can understand. Now, what I will say is to people like that is basically, yes, I think people have to hold up their hands here and say some of the messaging around the virus here and its relationship to non-Japanese human beings has been very negative, and you're never going to get a government apology for that. However, that doesn't reflect the people who are here on the ground, who are
Yes.
absolutely fantastic. I've been to 108 countries. There's a basic, a very clear reason why I live here, and that's the people, along with the safety, the efficiency, the food, and the culture. None of those have gone away. Those haven't changed. And in my travels around Japan over the last 6 months, 95%, I won't say 100%, 95% of the ryokans I've stayed in, the hotels I've stayed in, the restaurants I've visited, they cannot wait to welcome people like you back to this great nation.
Is this all COVID doing? Is that?
Yeah, that's
It is.
yes, because Yuka, how well, it's a little bit more complicated, but basically
Right.
what Max said, and these are my observations too. So the people in the hospitality industry here, they cannot wait for the foreign visitors to return, to be back, to be there, and they cannot wait to serve those visitors again. But the thing is that we've got different layers here. We've got business, we've got society, we've got local communities, and another thing is that while a lot of business owners understand that and they want to go back to to serving those inbound visitors, their local communities still feel the fear of infection, and COVID. And then
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah.
understand because it's foreigners. And we when I go on board with airplane, I'm gonna be tested like a 24, 72 hours earlier, and when I arrive at the airport in Japan, I get tested. So am I like I may be sort of like very naive, but am I even more safer than people who haven't been
Yeah,
tested?
yes, that's the
Yes.
logic. That's the
Yes.
logic. But people are not usually logical beings, okay? So, and when we talk about business, yes, there is logic there. But when we talk about pandemics, and perceived fear to somebody's well-being, then the logic just is not always there. So, and this is to say, not to say that the fear, and so on is blah blah blah, but yeah, we need to recognize the fact that, yeah, unfortunately, there are people, who do not feel safe here in Japan, despite all the logic and, well, that, people who come from outside and are tested and retested and so on, maybe even safer than the local travelers.
My short answer is, Jorge and Roxanne, there are a lot of people in Japan that welcome you, including us. We want you to come too.
Yes,
And
yes.
the messaging hasn't sufficiently communicated that. And like Mac, I empathize. I would probably feel the same way, but I just want to assure you, lots of people here would welcome you guys to come.
Yeah, I mean, humans respond to incentives. One of the great tragedies of the last 2 years, 10% of the world's GDP is related to travel, right? 10% of the world's
Yes.
population is involved in travel adjacent things. And very, very, very few countries, and certainly not Japan, have supported these people, in any way. There's been support here for the hospitality industry in the sense of food and drink, but there hasn't been support for hotels. There hasn't been support for employees who have worked in travel. So these, human beings respond to incentive. Money talks, and these people, which comprise a minimum of 10% of the population here, and they're the people who you're going to be encountering, at tourist sites, at the restaurants, at the bars, in your hotels. Nothing would make them happier than the doors opening and everybody coming here. So please bear that in mind as well. Like the welcome is going to be, we've heard of a motonashi and things like that. It's just going to be a relief driven from the very, I think, core of what people want, which is to do something that they love, which the majority of people who are involved in travel are doing, and to be able to support their themselves, and their families through that money that they earn as a result of doing a good job. And that's what you're going to get here. So please come.
Yes, please do. And I'm sure that, the largest part of the local community members, the places you visit here, they will be very happy to, and they'll welcome you with open arms. So, yeah. The thing which I was going to add was that, because of those fears, basically, there have been political decisions made to keep the borders closed. And again, we move into a different direction. But once, of course, at the moment, the news is that the borders will be open in June for a limited number of inbound travelers. And then once the upper house election is over, there will be even more. More restrictions will be abolished, and probably the country will be able to welcome even more visitors from overseas. That's it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and the only reason I know the information you just mentioned, Maya, is because I religiously listen to you and Timothy Langley's room on Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m., where you discuss these topics in depth.
Yes, yeah, that's true. If you follow that room, you will get a lot of information about public policies that affect your life here, your business here in Japan, and also if you're interested in Japan too, or just if you want to travel to Japan, you'll be able to get some relevant information in that room too. So, Tim, thank you for the plug. Very much appreciated. So,
My
and
pleasure.
thank you. Well, and Mac, there is a lot which I really want to talk with you about, and I'm sure that we will be able to do this as we go forward. I just have the feeling that you're going to be even busier than before. But when you were talking about making a commitment, to creating, let's say, videos about the places you have visited and putting them up there to support your mactionplanet.com site and blog, I was thinking, of course, you have been doing this mostly by yourself. You have learned to video edit, and you have of course, written a lot of articles about different destinations you have been to. And only recently, with the you used the services of professional video editor to have actually the series about the making sake on Sado. So you used another person, a professional video editor. But my question is, so haven't you thought about, just asking other people to help you, because this is obviously something which works and people love you doing, you put all that quality content out there, and
Right.
right. So, and I think that people are hungry, for that content. They are hungry for more. So, but since you're only one and time is limited, you're also, of course, you have a lot of other things on your plate. Haven't you thought about just having somebody help you do that?
It's an excellent question. A really, really great question. And because there's a lot at the core of it as well. I know a lot of people who have been on the Clubhouse room this morning, very entrepreneurial people. So they'll appreciate that you have something called the entrepreneur's dilemma, which is that you need to scale, but there's a maximum capacity that one person can achieve, normally bounded by the physical, the actual time that they have, 24 hours in one day, even though I've tried my best to try to expand that number to about 27. But you reach that limit, and so you need to get people in, but those people, you want them to do the job that you can. You want them to be you, basically, to have. For me, it's more than even just the talent. It's to have that emotional investment, right? And even when I started to expand Match and Planet, when I started to get double and triple booked, and therefore needed to bring in other guides, or one way to scale the business was to bring in other guides, and then to say to guests, okay, I'm busy, but I've got this guide which I 100% vouch for, far better than the average, and you're going to be getting tremendous service from them. That took me months and months of back and forth and intellectual masturbation to finally become comfortable, right, with using somebody else to represent my company name. So that's even the case with editing. So Maya mentioned the series that I recently put out on the Kampai Planet YouTube channel, a 9-part documentary series about making Nihonshu, making Japanese sake on Sado Island. I used an external editor. I employed Danielle Kelly from New Media Eye, and she did an absolutely fantastic job. And one of the reasons she did is because I identified very early on that she cared about the project, as much as I did. But support like that is not cheap. Making sake on Sado, the making of making sake on Sado, the series, cost me tens of thousands of dollars, right? Which I basically paid for out of the goodness of my heart. That's one of the reasons why I've started this ability for people who love the content and love what I'm doing to crowdfund it a little bit. And all of those funds are going to go back into making more and more content. So at the moment, it's just structured in the form of one-off contributions. It's going to become a regular membership. But I also want to offer more value than just the usual, oh, please help, So, and also I want it to be a more premium thing. So obviously there's going to be ability for people to support at, $5 a month or whatever. But I also want to have some premium tiers, and I'm thinking about doing things like, if you support at, say, a $50 or $100 a month level, after 6 months of that, I'll host an online whiskey tasting or an online sake tasting with all of your friends, or certain benefits if you come to Japan. Merchandise benefits, whatever it is. So I would love to put out more content. I want it to be economically viable. I don't even really want to make money from it, but I'd love to find a way to cover more of the costs of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I feel you, Mac. Especially what resonated is the difficulty of psychologically expanding, right, and hiring other people. And in the case of like making these videos, it's almost like you're making art, right? And your heart and soul goes into it. And again, you're not doing it for the money, and it's hard to outsource the making of art if you want to make that art, right? Unless you can find someone that brings a different flavor that you love, and it's also their kind of art. So anyway, just that really resonated with me. And we have Ian on stage. And Maya, did you have any comments before we go to Ian?
Oh no, I just second what you just said. And Ian, sorry for interrupting you. Please go.
So I'm just trying to get a handle on what's going on. Is this just a hobby that you're trying to get going, or is this a business that you're trying to get going?
Which which part? The drinks aspect of what I do?
From what I understand, you make YouTube videos. Is that all
Ah,
you're doing?
sure. I'll just give you a quick summary again of what I do. So prior to the pandemic, I ran a travel business, and that's my main business. During the pandemic, I pivoted on that part to doing a little bit of domestic tourism, some online related tourism, and I also started a Japan drinks related content platform called Kanpai Planet. And at the moment, that's very video focused. And that's
Mhm.
been and that's been the majority of the content that's come out on Campi Planet as well. And it's interesting that you pick up on whether it's a business or not. Obviously, there are ties into the travel part of what I do. Even before the pandemic and before Campi Planet was born, I was doing whiskey tours, sake tours, craft beer tours. So there is that kind of natural link. Um, it was initially born just from a desire to kind of share my love and passion for, Nihonshu and Japanese whiskey and whatnot with the world. Whether at some point it can become a business, whether the brand can develop, I've already been contacted by people who want to, for example, do private bottling. So, putting the Kanpai Planet, maybe basically kind of like a barrel select type thing, putting the Kanpai Planet name on some shochu and seeing how that, that
Interesting.
sells, things like that. I don't know. At the moment, I just want it to remain, kind of quite pure and to just try to give as much information and edutainment as possible out there.
I see. So it sounded like you were trying to make a business out of it, but then not saying that you're trying to make money off of it. So I was kind of confused.
Yeah, sure. It's what I mean is what I think I meant when I made that comment is that, for example, when I make a video, even this last video I made about the Tokyo Whiskey Festival, right? That took me 36 hours to make, and outside of the fact that it was filmed on a phone, it's some people would describe it as like a TV level production, right? So that is obviously time. And in the current, socio-economic capitalist society that we kind of live in, that time you would want to have some compensation for that time when you're putting something out there, right? Netflix, for example, is the subscription isn't free, right? So what I would love to get to is where people were supporting the platform financially, at least to a point where part of that time, was covered, right? And it would then allow me to invest even more time in giving this invested community of 1,000 true fans or whatever it is even more of what they want, and then a virtuous cycle kind of grows out of that. So I hope that clarifies what I meant, but it's good that you picked up on that discrepancy.
Well, it looks like Ian's on a call, and I know we've gone over 9 o'clock. So Maya, do you want to wrap the room up? And I personally would love to have Mac again in the future when he has time.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, Mac, did you hear that?
Yes, I heard it. Tim is just always too kind, but I will say from my side, it's an absolute pleasure when I get the invitation from you guys to join this room, and you can hopefully tell that by the fact that I normally respond to you within about 30 seconds saying, let's make it happen. So,
Thank you.
just reach out, guys, and I'll be there.
Thank you for coming and staying with us today. We will be on air next week on Thursday at 8 a.m. Japan time again, so join us. Until then, you can find us at japanexpertinsights.com and our YouTube channel, where we upload all the conversations on Japanese politics, business insights, and the role of Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. If you want to stay informed about our upcoming events, you can follow us on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, we're looking forward to your joining us next week. Until then, stay well and make the best of the day. See you.